Welcome back to In This Corner, and we have a special episode here, special for me because this is kind of what I do as well. So it is exciting to have the current UFC ring announcer, Golden Boy Promotions ring announcer, Invicta ring announcer, and even Cage Warriors, and even the voice of the AAA Gwinnett Stripers, the one and only Joe Martinez. I am ready for this interview. How are you doing, Joe?
What's up, Cyrus? I'm well, buddy. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. Living the good life, man. Down here in Tennessee, you're a down south guy now as well. You're down in Georgia, and man, just enjoying the weather. It's beautiful these days.
Oh man, I walked outside today and I said, "Whoa!" I mean, if everybody found out the weather was this good, it would be a mass exodus from everywhere to here. But yeah, it's very California.
That is a thing.
Very
That is a thing right now. They are coming from everywhere to Tennessee,
right.
anyways, I'm sure. But yeah, man, it's good to see you. And I'm excited to have you on here because obviously, when I'm not doing this, I do ring announcing as well and play by play. And you were such a big influence of mine over the last 15 years. Time has really flown. In fact, I was looking back and I was like, when was the first time Joe and I emailed? And it was some sort of email group. I don't even think they do these things anymore, but it was like hashtag PA announcers or something. And there was some sort of email dialogue that was going on, and you were kind of giving some tips and kind of talking about a few different things. And do you even remember that? That was a long time ago.
I think it was something through Yahoo, if I'm correct.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. And Yahoo's like not even a thing now.
No,
I don't think.
Yeah, I got hacked and kind of quit Yahoo. It's like, darn, I lost the coolest email address ever.
Well, what was the email address? I mean,
It was
it's
my name.
not there.
Yeah,
What?
you can no longer find just your name, like Joe Martinez at Yahoo. It was Joe A. Martinez at Yahoo.
I can find my name.
You probably could. Yeah, you probably could. There's so many of me though, it's very difficult. I get stopped at immigration all the time when I'm coming through. Like, we're looking for you, but we're not looking for you. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's not me? No. And I said,
and then they're like, you're the UFC guy. And you're like, yeah, I'm the UFC guy. It's all good. Don't worry.
I say, how can I get through this? I said, change your last name. So I'm now Joe Zenitral. Yeah.
I like it. Well, let's I want to kind of go back a little bit because you and I have gotten together a couple times and talked and stuff, but I don't think we ever really talked about like kind of how you grew up or anything. So I don't have that information. I know you were born out in Cali. On Wikipedia, it says Apple Valley, California. What was the childhood like for Joe Martinez?
I was born in Apple Valley. The story gets shared all the time. My mom, I mean, it was the typical. My mom was born in a town of Barstow, a little small desert town.
Yeah.
And the nearest decent hospital was Apple Valley, which was about 30 miles away. So when I'm being born, my grandpa's just jamming down the freeway on it in a Volkswagen Bug, and they get pulled over, and my daughter's giving birth in the back seat, and like, oh, follow me. So then it's like the cops lead the way. Pretty cool story. I was there. I don't remember it, but yeah. So those are the ties that I have to Apple Valley. But yeah, I grew up in Barstow, California. Very small town, very involved town, sports wise. The community is fantastic, really rallies around the kids, and we've had a couple NFL guys come out of there, a couple big league pitchers, baseball players. TJ Hujmanzada, he graduated a year after me, and more recently we have Aaron Sanchez, who's with the Washington Nationals right now, starting pitcher. But yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of cool talent come out of the town, but unfortunately, it's really regressed to almost unlivable standards. I think I hate to say that because I'd really like to see that town thrive again.
Yeah. Well, what was family life like for you? What was the family dynamic?
My parents split early. I think I was about 7, and my father just was really non-existent most of my life up until probably, well, he passed away in November of last year from COVID. And we were kind of rekindling a little bit, but there's 40 years of hurt there. It's kind of hard to, hey, welcome back to my life. So, but I no complaints, man. I was I was my grandfather's son he never had, and that's how he treated me. You know, like I was his number one. And so I had a lot of love, you know, growing up, a lot of encouragement from my dad when my mom remarried. That's who I called my dad, and you know, he
Okay.
passed in '96. But I still had, you know, I had about 11 years of his influence on my life, which
Right.
it really helped to transform me into, you know, the man I wanted to be, you know, to my wife, to my kids, you know, the type of father I wanted to be. Those were the three things, and that's why I tell people, I was like, I was taught how to hate in the beginning, and then I was taught how to be a man, and then I was taught how to love. So I
Yeah.
mean, you put all those things together, and you can find some balance. I'm not perfect, you know, by any means, Cyrus,
Yeah.
but I strive for it, and that it kind of can be a flaw at times.
I know one question I get all the time. Anytime I'm sitting on a plane or I meet a stranger, and inevitably, you know, what do you do, especially traveling, because, you know, it's going to happen. And when I say what I do, that I'm a ring announcer, that I'm a play by play, I always get the same thing. Wow, that's a cool job, which it is. And B, how did you get into that? Every time. And I know you've gotten it many, many times. So what kind of led to going down this route of communication? Now you went to Cal State Fullerton, did the communication thing, but what led you down that road? Was it high school stuff? Were you in drama, speech? That's kind of how I got started. Was there anything that kind of specifically led you that way?
I was always a voice, just the class clown, always acting up and kind of getting in trouble. And I used to do you remember Headline Sports? They would be on
I do.
20 and 50 minutes past the hour. I would do
Yeah.
the pre-commercial. Like, it's time for Headline Sports, brought to you by Levi's 100% Cotton Doctors. And I would do the little spiel. And my dad was like, "Hey man, you're doing great at that. You know, you should maybe consider doing that as a career."
Yeah.
Because I originally wanted to be a forest ranger. And
Okay.
and then of
Vastly
course
different.
and I don't know if you ever go speak at schools, but kids always ask, "How much money do you make, you know, in your profession?" And that's what I asked. Right? I said, "Hey, forest ranger, how much money do you make?" He's like, "Oh, about $40,000 a year." And you know, back then it was like '90s. It
It
wasn't
was
too
decent.
bad. But
Yeah,
I'm
it was
like,
decent.
yeah, I don't think I'm gonna pursue that a little bit any further. But when I broke my wrist in high school, my senior year, I didn't get to play baseball, and the coach allowed me to get up in the crow's nest and do a couple games. And I just fell in love with it. It was like it was my little hidden um, secret space where I could just be me, but nobody had to know who it was. You know, and you get
Exactly. Yeah.
who was that up there? Who was that? And they never, you know, knew. Even when I started doing pro baseball, you know, when people were like, "There's no way that's you up there," you know, I'm like, "Okay, that's cool. Thanks. You sound like a 40-year-old man." And this is back in my 20s. "You sound like a 40-year-old man up there. There's no way that's you." And
Yeah.
I took it as a compliment. Now I take it as a what? You know, beat it, dude. But yeah, that was it, man. I caught the bug and never said no to gigs, opportunities, because every opportunity led to something else that
Absolutely.
and maybe you're not on a grand platform that you're saying yes to, but I tell you what, man, you'll get there. You know,
Yep. Yeah.
every choice you make in life has a consequence, good or bad. And I like to help other people. I like to help promotions grow. I love our sports. You know, I love boxing. I love MMA, and it's important that we give back, because I mean we didn't all just initially like start at the top. You know, not that I'm at the top or you are, but we all had some type of struggle to get to where we are, and we have to appreciate that and help others that are in the same boat.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's funny because I was telling my producer Clint, I was like, you know, when I would have questions about my career as it went on and progressed a little bit, I'd message you or call you and we'd talk a little bit and you kind of walk me through a few things. And now I'm doing that for guys. And it's a great feeling and being able to give back. And what I find is that with MMA for certain shows, um, well, for all shows, I get really invested as well, almost to a fault. Like I want to see them do really well and I'll pop in and I'll be like, well, maybe, this isn't working. Maybe we should do this. And I almost kind of got to put my foot in my mouth, because it's like you're upsetting somebody's ego. You know what I mean? Because they have an idea of what they want to do. And even though it sucks, you can't necessarily tell them that. So I get really invested in it too, not just because I wanted the show to continue and I want to continue to get paid, but I legitimately want to see some of these guys succeed, because they're all good people behind the scenes, and or most of them are, and you want to see them do well. So I kind of get the same way. Have you ever got like that as well? Like where you get really invested and you just want to see something succeed, so you're offering a lot of tips, that sort of thing?
I think so, but I'm a little bit more honest. Like, hey, dude, that's not the look, or that's not the tie. For box, like I had a guy who wore a metal chrome tie,
No.
and you probably know who it is, but I just said, yeah, it's probably not the look they're looking for. I mean, that's a little aggressive, different arena for what you're trying to do. But yeah, I mean, some guys lay down in there and roll around, and make it a show about themselves. And that's, I think, the number one thing I can ever tell anybody is, remember, it's not about you. Stay humble, and remember, you're presenting a job. You're a glorified voice for something really cool that is not about you. So remember that, and do what you're hired to do. You're not hired to make a show of yourself.
So that was a little further down the interview, but let me get down to that, because so I agree with that 100%, by the way. I think it's one thing to have a catchphrase, and I remember when I first started ring announcing, I did my first show for MMA, and I was like, I have to have a phrase. When in reality, I didn't have to have a phrase, you know what I mean? But I was dead set within the next week before the show, as I was counting the down to days and getting excited about doing the show, I was like, I got to have a phrase. Well, it ended up being, it's time to shut up and throw down, which sounded cool to me. And it popped the crowd. It was fun for a show that was in Southwest Virginia for 500 people, maybe 600. But then I got on TV and I had a producer say, well, listen, it kind of sounds like you're telling people to shut up, and they don't like that per se. So can you change that? And it became knuckle up and throw down. And I've always used it. And I've heard guys say, you don't have to have a phrase. It's like, yeah, well, I've been doing this since, 2010 or 8 or 7 or whatever it was. And so I've just continued to do it. But you really don't have to have a phrase. It's about presentation. And one thing that I really like is getting the respect from the fighters. I like getting the crowd, and that's great. But at the same time, if you can get a fighter ready to battle somebody inside of a cage or a ring for however long, I think that is the ultimate respect, period, is when the fighters respect what you do. So that's kind of what I'm working for every time. I obviously want the promoter to be happy, but I love when the fighters are excited.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's funny is sometimes they don't even know you did their fight. Like, I just recently was in California, and I saw a kid whose fight I did last month. He was a main event on a DAZN show for Golden Boy. And I saw him, at a show, and I said, hey, great performance. Congratulations on the win. He goes, Joe, I didn't even realize you did my fight. He's like, I was so just tuned in to my opponent that nothing struck me. And then I went home and watched it, and I was like, oh, dang, that was Joe. Man, that was great. And then he gave me some love afterwards, after that. And I said, no, and that's what I said, look, dude, we're glorified name callers. We get to build up the crowd. The crowd, loves you guys. And it's great to be able to give you, something back that as a way to show our appreciation to you, for what you guys do.
Yeah.
And it's a short life, combat sports are a very short life. So they have to maximize what they have, when it's in front of them. But yeah, I think the most important thing, rather than say a catchphrase, because I mean, how many guys are going to top, let's get ready to, what?
Yeah.
No, that's the one, that thing has exploded over the last 30 years plus. I think the most important thing I could do is say their names correctly, and more important than that, get their hometown correct.
Sure.
Because I mean, I get guys from Gdansk, Poland, and if you don't say it correctly, they'll flip out on you. And I tell them, I say, hey, I know where you're from is more important than your name, so please give me the correct.
I'll tell you what's more important than that is the record. Mess up somebody's record by one win or one loss, and they're like directly dead in the eye, man. They're like, what do you mean 9 wins? I got 11 wins. They lose their minds. And it's like, I feel bad because I sidetracked them. They're getting ready to fight. And all of a sudden they're looking at me like I'm a moron. And I'm like, well, man, this is what the promoter gave me. And
you better get it right.
It's so funny. It's so funny. But then, you get to a show, it doesn't happen very often once you kind of get to the higher echelon shows. But when you're on a lower echelon show, you're getting numbers from all over the place. Production has a number, and the promoter has a number, and the matchmaker has a number. Best just to go to each and every fighter and check on every guy, at least at that level anyways, to make sure you get everything right. What about reading decisions? That is one thing that watching other guys on TV or on shows, streams, whatever, that drives me up the wall when somebody can't read a decision, when they don't give a judge, they don't give the score, they just randomly say, hey, blue corner won. That drives me nuts. You got any pet peeves like that?
I used to drop everybody's name. I think for
do
time
judge 1,
purposes,
judge 2, judge 3 is what I do. Yeah.
I would usually say like Sal D'Amato has it this, Derek Cleary has it this, and Mike Bell has it this. But it got too long. So then it started to become like the judges have it 30, 27, 29, 28, 29, 28, and that's it. No names. But I always felt like
but if it's a split,
judges should be held accountable. So if it is a split, I'm going to put names on there. Like Bell has it here for him, and D'Amato here for him, and your winner by split decisions. Yeah. Names are important in that regard. But
there's some guys that they don't take the time to do any of that, though. I mean, like none of it. Like it's just blue corner wins, and that's one thing. It's like you gotta at least take the time to learn how to read a score.
Yeah, no, that's amateur. And it might be something that they picked up while doing amateur shows, because they don't give out judge names there. They just say your winner is blue corner, and that's it. Yeah.
What really gets you, like I was talking about, getting the respect from the fighters, but for you, like what really what's the most redeeming thing about what you do inside of the cage or inside of the ring? Is it the crowd? Is it the fighters? Is it just a combination of all of it? The magnitude of it, how big the production is, like what really rings true for you?
I think that releasing myself from any pressure, because I tend to put it on my shoulders, and I build up some anxiety. Like I get voices in my head, man, especially in UFC, because Bruce is the guy. And when I'm there, I feel sometimes like an imposter, and I dealt with this like most of last year, and for whatever reason it happened. And I just felt like it was like demonic forces just trying to mess with my mind, because the devil is always trying to attack you in so many different ways. And I think for me, if I can get out of there and I've done my job well and give God the glory, then I've succeeded. If I put it all on myself and I feel like I failed, then it was never about him in the first place. And that's just my prayer when I go on, is like, God, may I just glorify you in all things that I do. Especially in here, you put me here for a reason, and help me to not come up short in glorifying you. So if I put it on myself, I'm not even thinking about him. So, that's kind of where my headspace is today, in the last 10 years since I've developed a relationship with Christ.
No, I get it. Think about, we'll stay on it just for a second, because it's inevitable. Like you said it was tough last year because, really, you guys were almost split down the middle with the amount of shows that Bruce was doing and the amount of shows that you were doing. You were doing a lot of shows with them. You get that comparison all the time. And the reality is that you guys have two different styles in a very, very big way. When people ask me, they ask me all the time, who's your favorite? Who do you like the most? It's like, well, listen, I've been as a fan, or I guess as I was press, but I was at some pretty big events that Bruce did. And I bought into the excitement because he does bring a certain energy into it. And it's just what you think immediately when you think of UFC and the announcer. And it is that jumping around and 360s and the pointing and everything that he does. But then on the other side, on the flip side with what you do, you're very smooth and you're very conversational. And I prefer listening to you just in general, because I think you're very smooth and you get things done. And I aspire to be that way, because I'm pretty solid, but I'm not as smooth as you are, and that's okay. But at the same time, what do you think of those comparisons between you and Bruce? Because you have to hear it. I know you're obviously focused on another level right now, but on the same time, you still hear those comparisons all the time. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it can be mind messing,
Yeah.
to use lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to process those things, which I've learned how to do within the last year, because I really needed to seek help, um, because the voices and people, and this, honestly, that's why, Cyrus, I don't have social media. It's because I just don't like getting trolled, and I don't think anybody does, but I don't respond well to it. It's like I need positive in my life. I need positive affirmations. I need encouragement. I don't need somebody telling me Bruce is better, you suck, whatever they have to come up with to try and bring me down. I don't need that stuff. So I just keep it out, and keep my Instagram private, and allow people in my life that are positive. Like, hey, Joe, you do a great job. Cool, you could be my friend. But if I suck to you, find someone else to troll. It's not going to be me. But yeah, you're right. I mean, everybody's got a flavor, and if it's me, great. If it's not me, that's fine. At the end of the day, they don't pay my bill. They don't pay my bills at home. They don't know me. They don't know my kids. They don't know my wife. They don't know what my struggles are in life either. And I think everybody deals with something. And maybe some people just think, well, you're on TV, you got it all together, or you're rich because you're on TV. People don't see the backstory. People see what they see. They don't know how you traveled to South Africa to do a show, and you're missing your kids for 5 days to make $500, to make a living, to chase a dream.
At your busiest, how much were you gone? As far as like how many weekends out of the year were you gone, or how many days?
I think in 2012, I was on 62 shows, 70 baseball games, and maybe 40 basketball games.
Yeah.
So a good 200 days that I was semi-available, sometimes completely unavailable.
Yeah, and then
60.
when you figure in any international, and I just sort of I kind of fell into that international guy status, and why it's been great. That means where it would normally be a day and a half trip, you can get somewhere, knock it out, and go home. It's 4 days minimum, when you're talking about going across the pond and stuff.
Right.
So that makes things really, really hard, to the point where I dread it. So like, if I know I have a show coming up, like I'm excited. And once I get there, you get me in the arena, I'm suited up, I'm excited, love every bit of it. But it's gotten to the point where I dread having to leave my family. Like I can't stand it. It's mind numbing. Like, but I know this is what my calling is. This is what I'm supposed to do right now, and how I got to provide. But at the same time, it is so difficult to leave family. And I know you can, you're with me on that more than anybody. To the point that you just grabbed your whole family, got in an RV, did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy, but with technology where it is today, at least we can FaceTime, daily. We can constantly be in contact. And I felt that way too, where I dreaded this trip or that trip. But then I had to really stop in my tracks and give thanks for the opportunity, because it's easy to get complacent when you catch your goal. It's like, okay, what now? And I mean, I've heard so many stories about guys winning Super Bowls or World Series and going through a mental funk of depression that really led them to consider suicide, because, okay, what do I do now? I've reached the top. So I think the best thing you can do is remove the ceiling and never put a top on anything in your life. Just keep going and have goals, but have more. Don't just stop at, I want to win a World Series or an MVP. I want to coach a World Series team to a World Series win. Something just bizarre. So at least you have something still to strive for.
When it came to announcing, did baseball and PA announcing, I'm guessing that came first as far as working at Cal State and doing stuff like that, or was it fights first for you?
No, it was actually collegiate baseball. I did some Victor Valley College JC ball, and the next year I auditioned for the Storm, the baseball team in
Yeah.
'96, and that was it. That was the beginning.
So you did over
And
20 years with the Storm?
22,
Wow.
22 years, 1,500 games. My kids were raised there. My oldest daughter's first job was there. You
Yeah.
know, it's wild. You know, and my little kids, you know, they're going to be 12 and 14 this
Yeah.
summer. But you know, they were babies. First game was there, and Drew, his second day of life was at the stadium. You
Wow.
know, yeah. So
Does he
it's
still,
awesome, man.
does he have love for the game?
Not at all, which is so crazy
That's
because
funny.
it's my thing. You know, it's like I've always loved baseball. I put him on a field at 5 years old, and I had him taking ground balls. He was so good. He was smooth. I'm like, yes, I got one, dude. I got
Yep.
one. First game, T-ball. He gets out there and he's in center field, whatever, 3 outs, comes back in, throws his glove. I'm done. And I said, what do you mean you're about to bat? No, I don't want to play. I'm done. I want to go home. And that was it. And I allowed him to quit that day because I'm the one that signed him up. It wasn't something he wanted to do. So
Sure.
he's not wanting to go back at all. And he's a fantastic athlete. He's got so much skill. But now he's a football player and
Okay.
a little bit of basketball. And I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, you gotta run track. But dad, I play football. I don't run track. I
Oh,
said, well, okay, who's your favorite player? Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill was a fantastic track athlete.
yes, indeed. Yes,
Okay,
indeed,
dad,
he was.
I'll do track. I'll do track. It
So I know. So Lake Elsinore was it's in the Padres organization, right?
is now. Yeah, initially it was the Angels. So the first 5 years were the Angels, and my last 17 were Padres.
Okay. And now there was a time where you were up for the job with the Padres,
Mhm,
right? So um
mhm,
didn't happen. What was
mhm.
that like? Because I can imagine that was very, very high and very important in your life at that time. What went down with the whole Padres situation?
Well, you know the old thing, what don't meet your heroes, you'll be disappointed. It's
Yeah.
like don't get your dream job either. You know, it could lead to disappointment. The Padres was my first opportunity. That was in 2000. And you know, I made the last five in the audition process,
Yeah.
and initially they gave it to a weather guy or something for the local TV station. And I was a little bummed, but I was okay because I still had my gig, and they were paying $80 a game, and I was like, yeah, that's not very much money for that commitment. The next opportunity was in 2012.
And that was for the San Diego Padres, $80 a game.
Back then in
It's still,
2000.
it's still funny though, because I think folks get an idea of what they think that position pays, and it
Yeah.
doesn't.
So the Angels
It's just,
opportunity came up in 2012, and I went out and did a spring training game for them, and went out and did a show after that. Came home and I got the call that I wasn't selected, but they were offering I think 175 a game,
wow.
maybe, and
Jeez.
you know a little bit of a hike. But I'm like, you're paying me $15,000 a year, and you're paying Pujols 15,000 in at bat. I'm good. You know, I'll stay in Z ball.
So I mean,
Yeah,
for you in baseball, it was kind of love of the game stuff. I mean, like it was
absolutely.
just kind of part of your commitment, just love of the game. Because I think, like I said, I mean, it's a rude awakening when people find out how much those positions are, and it's a rude awakening. I can speak, I got the job with the Tennessee Smokies, and I
Hmm.
remember you actually kind of helped me through that process. It came up with a little bit of a reel and that sort of thing, and I ended up getting the job. But it was costing me more to drive there and
I'm
be at the
patting myself
game.
on the back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You you
I was
you
giving
get
myself some
all the
love right
credit.
there.
Yeah. But it was costing me more money to do it than it was that I was getting paid. So I was like, even my wife was like, nah, we're not doing this. Like, like this doesn't make sense. And I was like, all right, fair
Right.
enough. So I didn't do it. But I mean, it was like an hour 15, hour 20 minutes away. It just wasn't
Mhm.
worth it. I couldn't do it. But I had such a blast. But it really has to be about the love of the game when it comes to PA announcing, because there's just not a whole lot of money in it. I'm not even at the highest level, I don't think.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think maybe Bob Shepard, Yankees, rest in peace, PA announcer, was I believe around 500. per game. And he
500 per
was
game. Yeah.
maybe at the time
40
and
grand.
still
So that's,
today the highest paid ever PA announcer.
wow. That just works out
Which
to 40 grand a year. I mean, like
in New York, come on, what's 40 grand? You need that monthly to survive in that town.
exactly. Like you got to have another gig. You have to have another job, but,
Yeah.
but you do get to experience, the greatest sport and live and
Yeah,
in person.
absolutely.
It's amazing, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go into the fight game. First fight. What do you remember about it? What was the first show you ever did? Was it boxing, MMA? What was it?
No, it was boxing. It was Maywood Activity Center in Maywood, California, a little multi-purpose gymnasium. And the promoter called me up out of nowhere. He says, "Hey, your uncle tells me you announce fights." And I said, "Yep, I sure do." And "Can you do my show?" I said, "I sure can. I need you to rent me a tux though, because I don't have." "Oh, no problem. We got you covered." So I made $400, including the tux.
On your
And then I said,
first
"Well,
show.
first
That's
show." Yeah.
impressive. That's
Baller, right?
impressive.
Yeah.
Dang. Oh.
And then I said, "Well, who's my uncle we're talking about?" He says, "Oh, Dean Loheis." I said, "Yeah, yeah." So Dean, when I was doing basketball, college basketball for Cal State Fullerton, Dean was a scoreboard operator. And he says,
Okay.
"Joe, you have got to get into boxing. You'll be great for the sport." And I said, "I don't know anything about how to get into that stuff." He says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it," because he worked for the California State Athletic Commission. And that's when I got that phone call. So he says, "Yeah, Dean Lowe." I said, "Oh, my Uncle Dean. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, I love that guy." And "How are you related to Dean?" And "Oh, his mom, she's my aunt." I just had to roll with it, man, and it worked. And the rest is where we are today. That was, and I have a huge debt of gratitude to Dean. I tell him the story that I share it all the time. People always ask, "How'd you start?" I say, "Dean Loweis. He's the one that put me, basically got me an opportunity."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, my first memory of you is WEC.
Mhm.
And a lot of MMA fans look so fondly upon the WEC. It's just
Yes.
kind of like they do Pride, but in a different way. It was almost like, if I can equate it, it's almost like college basketball. People get excited and they say, "Do you watch football?" "Yeah, I don't watch the pros, but I watch college," because they seem
Yeah.
to give more. They seem to care more about it. And you kind of got that feel from WEC, the little engine that could. It was fun. It was on Versus. It was a cool deal. But
Yeah.
what was the experience like with WEC? How'd you get hired on with them? And just some of the real cool moments from WEC.
Yeah. And this career is feast or famine, and it's
Yeah.
it's always a struggle. You are clawing your way to get to something.
Yep.
And
All the time.
all I ever wanted was a steady gig. And um I met I met somebody, I don't remember who it was, but my number was passed on to Reed Harris, and Reed calls me and says, "Hey Joe, I got this show in Lemoore. It's mixed martial arts." And I was really turned off. And I said, "Yeah, I'll come up and do it." But I had done an MMA show in San Diego, and it was so amateur that I
Mhm.
was like, "This is just bad." And MMA is in its infancy still. It's still in its infancy today, believe it or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it was really mediocre, below mediocre back then. And I said, "Yeah, I'll go check it out." So we go up there. I call my buddies and I said, "Hey, I'm going to do this WEC show, MMA." And "Well, who's fighting?" And I was like, "I don't know, some guy named Rob McCullough, uh, Eddie Wineland, Uriah." I had the list, and my
Yeah.
buddy was losing it. He's like, "Razor Rob? Are you the California kid? Are you kidding me?" Like, losing it. And I said, "What's your deal, bro? Are these guys like WWE guys or what? What's up?" He's like, "No, dude, let's go watch. You're gonna love it." So I go up and I do the show. Dude, we had so much fun. It was such a blast. It was in Lemoore. It was like 120 degrees outside. And we're doing an outdoor show. I'm wearing a freaking tuxedo. If you look on my Instagram, you'll see an old picture, and I have a white
Yeah.
tuxedo shirt with the red
Yeah.
tie and vest, and I'm holding the WEC belt, like one of the original championship belts. We were
Yeah.
just in the back messing around and
There was
having
a lot more
fun.
hair at that time.
Oh, there was a nice head of hair, nice head of hair, and just had a great time. And that was it. I mean, meeting Reed was just awesome. We still to this day share stories and laughs and hugs. And just
Yeah.
one of the most genuine, cool people that I've ever met in my career. And I value that friendship a lot, a lot. Yes.
So were there any of those big fights that kind of stand out to you as far as a little bit more hype, a little bit more exciting for you, where you kind of were excited to be there and, just kind of bought into the hype of it?
Heck yeah. I mean, when WC was going, I mean, you were a fan. I can't think of one bad fight. I can't even think of anything that was not
I'm a Leonard Garcia fan for life, my friend.
good.
Love that guy.
Unbelievable.
Everything
Dude,
he did.
yes. But my first real like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be incredible was Faber Pulver. And
Okay. Yeah, I remember
and
that.
it was just like electricity, man. What a blast. Because you got the former lightweight world champion coming down to 45 in
Yeah.
WEC. Just awesome. Awesome atmosphere, the buzz, the electricity of the crowd. I mean, that is real. If you've always heard the phrase the
Yeah.
electricity of the crowd, bro, man. When you can feel it, like
Yeah.
you can't deny that it exists because it
Yeah.
just runs through your body. And that was really the first time I'd ever felt that in my life
Yeah.
was that show. And yeah, oh my
The
gosh,
the
Hardcore
rise of
Arena.
Aldo. Aldo was a stone cold killer, dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely insane. Just brutalizing people. And then the Showtime kick. I mean, you were there for the Showtime kick. That's big.
actually, I wasn't.
Were you not?
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Who did?
I
Did
left.
Bruce do it?
Yeah, I left the WEC.
Oh
I came
no! I
back and
thought
did
you were
the
there for
very
that.
last show. Nope, I came back and did the very last show. I
Ah,
watched it. I watched it. I was bummed, man. But I had to
yeah,
make a choice. I had to make a decision for my family. And
really?
at the
Okay.
time, yeah, yeah. So we
Well,
part.
if you don't mind me asking, what kind of led to that? What were
I
you kind of
think
battling with there?
it was like I kind of had to choose whether I was going to do boxing or I was going to do MMA. And I really wanted to do both because I was found
Yeah.
doing both. And I felt like a choice was put before me
Was
that
there an
I
ultimatum from one of your shows?
yeah, you got to do this or you got to do that. It
Okay.
can't be both. And it didn't, my future didn't look like it was going to go beyond that year with WEC. So, um, I had to just do what I had to do, and went over to boxing, and it went really well. I ended up signing on with Cage Warriors, and of course Connor was there back in the
Yeah.
day when he was
Yeah.
still just Connor, um, and a lot of talent. So it was fun to be a part of that. It was like the next WEC for me, another feeder that had tremendous amounts of international talent yet
Yep.
to be seen. So
Agreed. Yeah, great
yeah.
show. Still to this day, man, they're putting on fantastic shows and putting a lot of talent out there, man. Patty the Batty, straight out of Cage Warriors as well.
Most
Um,
unassuming badass ever, right?
gotta love it, man. Gotta
Oh, he's
love it.
great.
I wondered if maybe his goose was cooked and he wasn't going to make that next step at one point, and he kind of lost a little
Yeah,
steam, and there he is, and now he's just as popular as ever. It's awesome.
superstar. I
Hey,
loved his post fight. Who do you want to fight next? Oh, dude, I fell apart laughing and just applauding. Yeah, I want Mark Zuckerberg. I want to punch him in the face. I was like, this guy, I love him.
so the
Mm.
boxing, man, I gotta say, that is one area I have. It's different, it's funny. I tell people this all the time that Facebook, I was able to contact so many promoters coming up, especially with MMA. There were just easy ways to get in touch with promoters, and boxing is more guarded than that. In my opinion, it's harder to get a hold of promoters. It's hard to get that in. Whereas with MMA, I was able to find out these guys' email address, hit them up on Facebook, and I was just hustling like nonstop. And you could still kind of do that with MMA, but boxing's different. So I don't have a whole lot of experience in boxing, but I'm sure you'd probably agree with that. Like it's a different kind of level. It's just a different sport, and they just seem to be a little bit more guarded as far as how to get a hold of these guys and that sort of hustle aspect.
Yeah, there is it's a fraternity, a small one, and very close knit. And I believe a lot of the the boxing purists hung on too long at the taste of MMA, hung on too long at disliking it rather than embracing something different. And then there were promoters out there that said, you know what? They got something there. We still have something to showcase. So let's do hybrids, let's do an MMA boxing show, within the show. And it's brilliant. I always loved that platform. But
you're
boxing,
sort of seeing that with bare knuckle now too. Like it's kind of like the MMA fans, like they're kind of bleeding together. I feel like they bleed together with bare knuckle because you get a lot of guys that were UFC vets, MMA vets coming in there, and it seems to kind of be bringing those two fan bases together.
What about the pillow fighting championship?
Yeah, what about that? That's a thing.
That's a thing. It really, doing. I couldn't even believe it until I saw it. I'm like, this is great, man. What's freaking next? I saw something on Reels the other day, and it was like these two Asian guys fighting this one white dude. Did you see this?
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, no, I know a guy that does it in Thailand or whatever.
Oh,
and
gosh, I want to be in that. I want to go. I want to go. I mean,
no, he's amazing. His name is John Nutt. Is it circus fights? Oh gosh, I'm FM Full Metal Doge guy. It's like I feel bad. Fight Circus.
Oh,
I think it's Fight Circus. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
had him fight inside of a phone booth. Siamese twins fighting. It's bananas.
Crazy.
I love it.
I mean, the mind, the human mind is just so full of possibilities. And when you remove limits, I mean, what can we come up with next? The team fighting I thought was just incredibly crazy. When you got all these just guys going after it like an alley fight, but I mean, what's next? It just keeps getting better and better and more bizarre as we grow.
So what biggest boxing bout that you've done, biggest crowd, most electricity, like what's been that for you?
Well, I was actually looking the other day when Tyson Fury fought, the heavyweight fight with White at Wembley. Mm-hmm. And they said there was about 95,000 people there. And I was like, man, that's got to be one of the largest crowds ever. It is actually the fifth, if I'm correct in my research.
Okay.
But the largest crowd was 132,000 people in 1941.
Okay.
And then it went down to 120 and 119 until you hit 95 with this last show. But I was looking at top pay-per-views, and I actually did one. And so that would be my biggest fight then. And it was Canelo Triple G2.
Okay.
Second.
Wow.
And I did that one. I had the full show, HBO pay-per-view, and massive amount of buys, a massive gate. And again, just electricity in the crowd. Undeniably amazing atmosphere. My mom was there. She was blown away, and it was cool. It was a neat experience for her because she was at my one of my earlier ones when it was outside and birds were pooping on people and it was hot. It just wasn't fun.
Have you done MSG?
I have.
Yeah.
I've done the Garden a few times.
Is that special feeling going in there and doing a show?
Probably not for me because I ask questions. I'm like, man, this is the Garden. They're like, well, it's one of them. It's not the original one. And like, oh, it's not. Oh, all right, whatever. So it's just a garden. It's not the original Garden. I think it's the third one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's kind of disappointing.
Nah, it's still exciting. You still did the Garden. It's exciting.
Hate to burst your bubble there, buddy.
No, you know what really burst my bubble is I got called to do Ryzen one time, and not to ring announce, but do play-by-play. And I couldn't end up doing it. I had gigs in Europe. I had like 2 shows that weekend, and I couldn't just pull out, even though it would have been for Crow Cop. And I'm a massive Crow Cop guy. I love Mirko Crow Cop. Loved watching him. And I would have been able to call his fight. But then I found out that the commentators aren't even in the arena. So they're like in a studio next door to the arena. And I'm like, oh, that sucks. That would be the most, because they have you come out there for like a week. You know what I mean? So I would have been like, and then if it was fight night and they don't take me to the arena and they take me to a studio, that would have been very disappointing. So I'm actually kind of glad it didn't actually go down. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But as far as UFC, biggest fight thus far? I mean, what was the one that stands out?
Probably the most exciting one for me was the opportunity, and that was 267.
Okay.
Bruce came down with COVID. They asked me to fill in, which of course,
This
I'm
is
not going to
Abu
say
Dhabi,
no.
right?
Abu Dhabi,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Piotr Jan wins a title. Teixeira wins a title. Just crazy night of fights. It was so fun. But it was like a show of anxiety. And when they asked me to do it, I said yes. I told nobody. I told my mom, I told my wife, and that
Yeah.
was it. I told nobody. And next thing you know, I'm getting just blasted emails and text messages and, can you do my podcast? Hey, what's going on? Or where's Bruce? I was like, God, why? And honestly, Cyrus, I couldn't wait to get done with that show just because I wanted to breathe. I felt so just like so much anxiety. It was like I
Yeah.
just wanted to be done. I have to fly over there and I still have to deal with doing the show, and being, trying to be at the top of my game. But it was still exciting, not to take anything away from the atmosphere, because it was very enjoyable. The fans were fantastic. The fights were great. UFC is just, to me, Dana, what he's done, especially through COVID, still
Yeah.
managing to never cancel a show, just postpone stuff. I mean, it really kept my family afloat,
For sure.
and others, and
Mhm.
I thank him, and I thanked him personally, and said, just what you do here does not go unnoticed by me or my family, and just thank you. That was it.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's funny
and
because, that specific show, I had already done a couple of contender series spots, which was awesome, which I was excited about that. I feel like I'm somewhat in the fraternity, which is cool. That being said, I did a couple contender series show, and I was over there for UAE Warriors in Abu Dhabi.
that's right. Yeah.
And I start getting messages, and they're like, dude, Bruce has COVID. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, he's not doing the show. He has COVID. So I hit up Zach Candido immediately. I'm like, dude, I'm in Abu Dhabi. I'm ready. I got a tux. I'll stay. Just let me in. And and he messaged me, and he's like, dude, we've known about it for a few days. He's like, Joe's on his way. And then I messaged you. And it's funny because there's been a couple of times over COVID that we've been in Abu Dhabi at the exact same time doing shows, but we couldn't get together because
Right.
so I just thought that was crazy, because I was like, oh my God, it's my moment. I'm here at the right place in the right time. I didn't know if he was already there and he came down. I had no idea what went down, but yeah, that had to be crazy. But I was
I'm
like,
not
oh
gonna lie, dude. I would be so pissed. I probably wouldn't be on this podcast right now. I'd be like, screw this guy,
yeah. But
Mel.
was that your first big numbered event? Is that what that was?
Yeah.
Really? I thought you did a
Bru-
numbered event before then, but I guess that's been Bruce's
no.
thing, right? He's done all the numbered events
Well,
up
that
until
was
then.
the whole buzz. He had done 256 straight numbered events, and
Yeah.
then I broke the streak. And then, of course, he broke my streak by doing 268. So shame on him. Yeah.
Fair point, man. Hey, listen, props to Bruce. Incredible longevity. This guy, man. And I know he takes it very, very seriously. And I've had conversations with Bruce. I've been around Bruce, have nothing but respect for him, to be honest with you. He that's his life. And he takes it extremely serious about not missing a show. And I know that had to be devastating for him. That had to suck. You didn't talk to him at all, did you? Like, did you reach out to him and say, hey, dude, hope you feel better or anything like that? Was there any sort of conversation between the two of you?
No, not at all. I mean, and like you said, all respect to him. But he and I have had a very brief conversation once in our entire knowledge of each other's existence. And it was, hey, Joe, I'm Bruce. Oh, hey, what's up, Bruce? How you doing? Doing great. Just out here for the fights tonight. Great. Enjoy yourself, man. Boom. That was it.
There
And
it is.
probably verbatim was that conversation right there, you know,
But I
which
mean,
is fine. It's
yeah, I was
very
about to
rare
say,
that,
like, is
we
that
get
good?
to meet each other. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen much.
Yeah. What about his brother? Have you had interactions with Michael?
Oh yeah,
Done
Michael and I have
undercards
worked
and stuff
together.
for him, that sort of
Yeah,
thing?
several times. Yeah, several times. And I feel we have a good rapport, good working relationship. And we talk about everything,
Yeah,
and
I've heard he's a really nice guy. I've heard he's a pretty good dude.
he'll mess with me if Ohio State loses, and he'll call him out. He remembers these things, like he knows something about you that matters, and
Yeah,
makes a point to recognize that, which
that's
is really
smart.
neat.
It's a
Yeah,
good way to be.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess we'll kind of wrap it up. But I mean, what's next for you, man? Like, is there anything new going on? Any sort of new projects or anything like that? God,
No.
we didn't even get to talk about. We really get into family and stuff like that, which we'll do this again because I love talking to you, anyways. But um, your family, what you've done over the years, I just think is awesome, man. You're a great dad, great husband. Got the whole family together, lived in an RV, traveled across the U.S. I couldn't imagine doing that. Like, I really, really couldn't. I'm sure I could, but I couldn't imagine doing that. But there's so much more to dig into. But what's next for you, man?
Yeah. Well, we bought a new one, so
Oh, new RV?
hopefully,
Yeah,
yeah. Bought that in California a few weeks ago and drove that over with the family. We came to Georgia with that. So we're actually going camping this weekend. We're going to take it out to the lake and just relax, decompress a little bit. I'm off
yeah,
for a couple weeks. And my wife works hard. She needs a break. The kids are working hard in school, and it's just nice to get a head change, even though it's in the backyard. It's still fine. I don't have to go too far to find a sanctuary, something peaceful. Just some more fights coming up though, pretty stacked, which is
yeah.
great. It makes for easier times, of course, when there's work. And then too many projects, bro. Too many. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just talking about owning a home, to a buddy the other day, and I said, man, I hate to say it, but it's kind of a lie. You know, owning your dream home is kind of a lie because the projects never end, the
Never ends.
money never stops you getting spent, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I need to work more. I got to get this done, and now I got to get this done. It's just like 5 grand here, another five here. This is 10. I'm like, jeez, dude, let me
Yeah,
move
yeah.
back into the motorhome. I'm good. I'm
It's so
so
true.
happy being on the road. It's so
Yeah, put
easy.
me in a condo. I'll take there's some days I'd love to be in a condo, man.
Yeah.
I'm not
What's the
even gonna lie.
HOA? 500 a month. Great. Take it.
Got
I don't
you.
have to
Yep.
mow a lawn. I don't have to do anything. Great. Yeah.
Oh, well, Joe, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. Truly appreciate it. And good luck with everything, man. And I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Cyrus. It was a great time, man. I always enjoy our conversations too, and the opportunity to hang out with you.
Yeah, awesome, brother. Well, there it is. The one and only Joe Martinez right here on In This Corner. We got plenty more coming up. Look out for more episodes. Check our social media. I'm Cyrus. We'll see you next time right here on In This Corner.